Nigeria's forthcoming general elections, with 4 presidential candidates of note, will be hard fought. Now, the high-stakes elections promise to be notably different from previous polls in several respects. First, the number of credible presidential candidates is higher than we've had in the past. We are therefore asking on the show this morning the issues that will guide voters' choice as political parties intensify campaigns. We have in the studio 2 gentlemen from different political parties. Dr. Agbo Major is the National Publicity Secretary of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, and also Njuma Mohammed, a chieftain of the ruling All Progressives Congress. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Earlier today, I would start by referring to a statement by the former President Goodluck Jonathan, where he was raising concern about how the campaigns are going, and he is particularly worried about the jabs and the hate speeches and the negative energy in the political space, as a result of these campaigns and all of that. What do you make of this? Is that a valid stand?
Certainly not a valid stand for me. And unfortunately, Stu, I will say it is the handwork of, the opposition. Because for my party, APC, we actually caught out for an issue-based, campaign for the electioneering campaign. But unfortunately, what we get from the opposition has always been their own personal assessment of the personal record, personal health, and all that of our candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I want to say, or to buttress the fact that we actually came out for issue Bs, is the fact that for the first time in the history of Nigeria, you have a presidential candidate that took time to bring out his own manifesto independent of the party's manifesto, to the people as his own action plans.
I'm wondering what other members of political parties will say when they listen to you say this, whether or not the APC can actually exonerate itself when it comes to this, because we've heard, even right from the top, the presidential candidate of your party call other candidate names, stingy, and the rest of them. If you go on social media, I'm certain you'll see all kinds, of words and all that. So I'm wondering how they are going to react to that. But let me let.
But certainly, yes. Before you go to my brother and colleague,
yes.
Certainly, whatever we did or we are doing, as far as these deviations you noticed or mentioned are concerned, are reactive to what the opposition is doing. So, but what we did basically, our intention should be judged from our beginning. The genesis is that we came out with a blueprint to the people, and we had wanted to focus on that blueprint. We are still focusing on it. We have not deviated. We are still concentrating on on promoting the blueprint, but we still reserve the right to politically react to whatever insinuation that is done to our principle. So that is what we do. We do it only when it is necessary for us to react. So please.
All right. So, Dr. Agbo, when at the main mention of the opposition, a smile cracked across your face. So, and so, what?
You will not be asking me why I was smiling. Oh yes, because my very respected colleague, he has actually said, we've been in the trenches together. He has been chairman of a political party in the past. Unfortunately, the party is defunct, and all of a sudden, he is now in APC. Of course, that's the beauty of democracy. People have the freedom to move about. It depends on what your personal conviction is telling you. But I had to laugh when he talked about the opposition, because by my assessment, he is trying to reduce opposition only to the PDP. And I need to get my big brother to understand that Nigerians are looking beyond APC and PDP now. What Nigerians know as the opposition to the present government is not even the PDP. And the NNPP is there, the Labour Party is there. These are parties that are constructively opposing the APC.
Can the NNPP actually consider itself as that leading opposition right now in the country?
Well, by all parameters, we are, and I will tell you the reasons why I think we are, and that's not my personal assessment. We're getting feelers from Nigerians. Nigerians are happy with what we're doing. One, we have stayed on the lane of issues. We're discussing issues. We have read the mood of Nigerians, you know, having been led by the PDP and the APC for about 16 and then 7.5 years or thereabout. Nothing has changed. Nothing has affected their lives positively. And so when we came with a bang. We came with a promise that we would be looking directly at what affects them, you know, as individuals, as groups, as communities, and as a country. And because we approached it from that level, today we are celebrated as the only opposition party that is doing the needful, which is to constructively oppose. And that's why I can beat my chest to tell you that contrary to what my brother said, the PDP is not an opposition. The key opposition party now is the NNPP.
Can the NNPP truly consider itself as different? I mean, for many of the members, I beg your pardon, as a matter of fact, the presidential candidate of your party also former member of the PDP. So how different really is you know, is he from, you know, the APC and the PDP?
I enjoy reacting to this always, whenever I'm on air, because I know this question keeps coming, you know. They will tell you this is a member of the old brigade. He's part of the PDP, he was part of the PDP, he was part of the APC. And I keep telling Nigerians that democracy is about, you know, making a choice as to where you want to stay. If you're in a place where the vision that attracted you there is being derailed, you know, frustrated by people maybe for personal reasons, for selfish reasons and all of that, what you need to do as a Democrat is to walk away. He's a founding member of the PDP, yes. And under Obasanjo, of course, you don't discuss democracy so far in this country without bringing in the former president, you know, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who by all standards, by all parameters, did very well. If we had continued with that spirit, I'm sure that we won't be where we are now. Because whether anybody likes it or not, of course, as a human being, he had his shortcomings. But he was one man who was bold, he was courageous, he dealt with issues, he stayed focused. Infrastructurally, he caused a revolution and all of that. He was determined to make our democracy blossom. And so he did very well. And under him, His Excellency Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, who is now the presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, did so well because he was a governor under the PDP. And of course, you are Northerners, I'm sure you are familiar with the giant infrastructural strides, you know, that are now there for people to see. These are not hidden infrastructural results. They are there for people to see in Kano and its environs, you know. So let me conclude. I'm going straight to the question you asked now. Now, when he discovered that the PDP was, you know, losing focus, you know, he had to walk away, because what makes you a courageous Democrat is your preparedness to walk away when the interest of the people, you know, is no longer the issue, because democracy is about the people. So when the interest of the people becomes an issue, you have the right to walk away. So for him to have been courageous enough to do that, it shows he's a Democrat. Then to APC, where my brother is now, of course, he joined others, you know, after he discovered that the APC was derailing. I mean, the PDP was derailing. He joined others, including his own presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the PDP presidential candidate now, to form what we now have as APC today, you know. And then when they hit the ground running, in fact, their own was even shorter. PDP had well over 10 years before we now saw that they weren't doing what they needed to be doing for the country. But APC had a shorter stay, and we discovered that nothing was changing. Rather, the situation was further deteriorating. And so what he did was, when he tried to make a change from within, of course, the best way to make a change is from within. When he tried to do that, and he discovered that the forces were against it, he had to walk away. And then, instead of him to go back to PDP or any of these parties that our people would want to refer to as opposition or, you know, established parties, he decided to go for a party that is fresh enough where he could inject his ideas. And that's why eventually he found himself in NNPP. And he only joined us, you know, brought in his ideas. And when we harmonized, we discovered that we're good to go. And that's why we are now the issue in the country politically today.
So we've heard his perspective. He considers the NNPP as the opposition. Do you see it that way?
And then when I said opposition earlier,
okay,
I meant the front runners that are not in government. NNPP is one. Is a part of the opposition.
Thank you.
So they share, yes, I recognize the fact that NNPP is part of the opposition. But having said that, none of them, PDP, Labour Party, NNPP, none of them compares when it comes to pedigree of national service, pedigree of quality of presidential candidates. None of, and in fact, exemplary. I mean, campaigns, big issue-based campaigns. None of them compares attitudinally to the APC. APC still remains the party to beat, not only based on the performance of the government in the last 7.5 years or so, but also based on the quality of the presidential candidate himself, his pedigree, his uncommon vision, to have envisioned what you have as Lagos State today itself is a plus. And the fact that this fellow is so personally gifted, with this innate ability, to a kind of bring out policies that were never seen on this climb. The TSA, he was the first in Lagos. Federal copied from him. Biometric auditing of public staffs, federal government copied from him. And in fact, if it were to have been a kind of easier to amend the Constitution of the Federal Republic today by the National Assembly, it would have been done conveniently to a kind of accommodate the idea which he left in Lagos of the area developments. That is area council developments. It's supposed to be the fourth tier of government, which is what the case is in Lagos. So having said that, we are really fortified with, as APC and also as presidential campaigners, we are fortified with all the ingredients to actually campaign on issue-based. So whenever you see any member of our party or of our campaign, dissipating energy on the personality and that is of any of the opposition presidential candidates, he's doing that from as a reaction to what has been done from there.
One thing that will continue to stand against the All Progressives Congress, as far as governance is concerned, is the argument put forward by economists and other experts who say, well, the lives of Nigerians have been made worse since the APC came into power. I mean, very recently we had a data released by NBS that talked about over 130 million Nigerians. That's more than 60% of the population now in, poverty, multidimensional poverty, as they call it, and all that. So how would you say that when you have a system like that, you have been able to improve the lives of people? I think the end game, the end results of every administration, it's to bring about the upliftment of the lives, isn't it?
Excellent. You see, the data you just turned out was actually was not very fair to the, to the APC and even to Nigeria. The truth of the matter is that Nigeria is sharing from the world, economic issues. We won a very popular election in 2019 for a re-election of our president based on the performances of the government between 2015 and 2019. And the same year we won this re-election, by May, the president was sworn in. By December 2019, the COVID-19 pandemic broke out in Wuhan in China. APC did not contribute to this. So it's a global issue.
If you call it unfair,
excuse me.
You call it unfair, but I don't know how to reconcile this.
Because it must take into account
the NBS,
the global circumstances.
The NBS is a government agency. Isn't it?
Yes, it
so
is.
If you say it's unfair, how is it that an agency under government is being unfair to itself? Is it because of the outcome of the data that you call it unfair? If the data was different, would you still call NBS being unfair?
No. It is not because of the outcome of the data, but because of the perception that data seems, to have a kind of impacted on Nigerians or the elites. What I'm trying to say is that for you to look at that data, you must first take into account the fact that in the last 2 years, the global economic challenges of the last 2 years has completely denied any expert in the entire world an objective template to assess the performance of the Nigerian government, because it is an economy that is not independent, an economy that is dependent on world production. We are a consumer-based economy, not a production-based economy. And now you have a problem with the global production base, with the entire world, over almost 200 nations of the world, are reacting negatively.
It then shows that the system that we run is not prepared for emergencies. It's not prepared to take shocks, such as we have seen with the case of the COVID-19 and the issue of the Russia-Ukraine war.
Exactly.
It is one excuse that your party men have continued to give. But let me throw this to Dr. Agbo. Are you prepared to take on these responsibilities in such a way that we will not look back, or we will not come to a moment where, if you eventually emerge to lead Nigeria, we will not come to a time where we say, oh, so and so happened, and so we are unable to do this, we are unable to deliver this, we are unable to deliver this. How prepared are you?
Well, when you talk about the preparedness of a party and its presidential candidate, to react very quickly to emergencies or challenges like you're talking about, you'll be looking at it from the angle of the energy of the man in question, and then his capacity, his antecedents, and then the quality of those around him. Of course, His Excellency Kwankwaso will not be running a government that one of its arms would say something and will now come out to say that is not right, It will be incumbent on us to ensure that all the arms are up working. The job of the MBS, for instance, like you're talking about now, is to guide the government on what they feel should be done, to check certain challenges, that are already rearing their heads or about to. But a proactive government, which we expect to run by the time His Excellency Rabi Musa Kwankwaso is in power by May, will be a government that will be looking, forward, not at what is on ground now. Whatever is the situation that we are in now. As I talk to you now, we already have a projection which would catapult Nigeria from where it is now, within the next 1 year, you will see the difference, because like you rightly have said, when you talk about insecurity, you talk about all these challenges. They are as a result of the fact that there's a government that is not even interested in developing them. When you have minds that are idle, that's what you get. So we already have an economic team in place because the economy is the issue. Once you get the economy working, all other things would fall into place. These security challenges would be things of the past. Infrastructure on their own would, begin to fall back into place. People will be able to travel on roads that are smooth. The railways will work and all of that. So we already have a team, because we are very sure that he is the incoming president. We already have a team that has given us an idea of what he should be doing in the next 1.5 years, which we expect that should be able to impact very positively on the lives of. So we are talking of his preparedness as a Democrat. He is ready. He is a listening person, and he has lived all his life on the side of the ordinary people. This one man who took Kano literally from its very primitive level, to a level where the standard of living of the people was uplifted overnight, and people were mobbed from the streets into the school, so that they will be able to, discover themselves and then see how they could be useful to the people. So if this was done at the level of Kano, and that Kano happens to be one of the largest in terms of size, in terms of population in the country and all of that, if he did this within the first 4 years, you remember he had a break between the first term and the second term. He had issues, there was conspiracy against him, he couldn't return instantly. But when Kano people discovered that it was a conspiracy, they brought him back because they wanted him to come and conclude what he did in 4 years. And today, Kano is better for it. Out of school children mopped up into schools. The schools were, redesigned, classroom blocks provided to be able to accommodate those who was moving out. So what am I trying to say? The key thing is to develop the human mind. Once the human mind and human capacity is developed, all these other challenges we are talking about would be things of the past. And that's what he specializes on, education. Of course, you and I are northerners, before now that there are a lot of families you could walk up to, and they will tell you, our child will not be part of anything Western. But he was able to break down jigs. Kano, of course, is a very serious traditional home of the Hausa people, But he was able to get them to understand up to the level that people were now releasing his children, their children to him to even send abroad. This is unprecedented. So we strongly believe that we have a government that will not be waiting for pressure to come on its shock absorbers. We will be prepared to proactively preempt whatever would be the challenges so that Nigerians would know that they have a country that bothers about their welfare and all of that. So we are set.
All right. Talking about level of preparedness, I want to stay with you for a little bit. Talking about level of preparedness. Now, if you do manage to secure the top seat in the land, but we know it's not just the president that works. We have a National Assembly. And you need a certain level of cohesion within that National Assembly before you can be able to achieve anything meaningful when it comes to that. We see how the political terrain is. We see how it's going to be a tight race. It has been predicted. Just as it's going to be tight for the presidency, most likely that's how it's going to be for the National Assembly seats as well. If you don't have a clear majority in the National Assembly, are you prepared for that coming in as the new person?
I will be answering you from two different perspectives. First, the National Assembly members, what is the interest they have? Is their interest centered around the welfare of the constituents that have brought them to come and represent them? That's number one, because that is one thing that's been missing. We've had people come to National Assembly and they are just there to service their personal needs. I'm sorry to say this, but we're in a quagmire and we need to address these issues frontally. So we don't need to be reserved about anything that we know is a challenge to us. So, but here now, like you rightly have said, is an election that has aroused the consciousness and preparedness of the voters. They are prepared. We've had a lot of them say that they are no longer going to vote along the lines of party affiliations or even religion and ethnicity that our leaders have used in the past to gag us into doing what eventually would always turn out not to be in the interest of the people. So people are going to be elected based on their pedigree, based on their closeness to the constituents, and based on the results they have the capacity to generate. So when you have that kind of situation, even if you don't have that majority, the most important thing is the National Assembly members have the interests of their constituents at heart. And so if you have a government that is determined to uplift the living, the standard of living, the welfare of the people, anybody, any National Assembly member who is not prepared to key in is an enemy of the people. So we'll be doing it in such a way that the decisions that would be taken by His Excellency as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria would be decisions that are generated or that are products of the thinking of the majority of Nigerians who are the electorates. And so if any National Assembly member that is working against such decisions would be seen to be working against the people. That's one. Then the second aspect of it is that, like I said, if you have a government that is determined, I think the National Assembly issue will not be a problem. Then the second thing is the issue of rule of law, which is lacking. The problem with our democracy all along has been that people are placed in positions of authority and they have no regards for the rule of law. And once the rule of law is jettisoned, nothing works. So we will ensure that while in government, His Excellency Rabi Musa Kwankwaso will be operating specifically based on what the rule of law is. And when that is done, Nigerians will see him clearly to be somebody who respects law and due process. And so people will have no choice but to support him to succeed in office.
One thing that you will have to battle with for your party is the issue of regaining the trust of Nigerians. The All Progressives Congress, I don't think, enjoys as much goodwill as it did in 2015 after these years of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. So how do you intend to regain the trust of, many Nigerians? We have the Dr. Agbo Major here, who is seated, and with his principal as well, who were on your side at some point, but, parted ways because they felt that the party deviated, from serving the interest of Nigerians and the rest of them. So how do you regain people like that who have decided, look, this party is going nowhere?
Yes. I want to say, in the first place, we do not need to regain. All we need to do is to sustain the confidence of the people. We still believe, and practically on ground, we are in an election.
You still have those people.
Oh, very serious.
Are you certain that the number of those people can actually keep you in power?
Most certainly. In fact, we have more, because we go day in, day out to enlighten the people on the circumstances that led to the current economic hardship of the last 2 years till date. Having said that, let me quickly react to the fact that they came in. The truth of the matter is that His Excellency, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, I have great respect for him. But he did not jet out of APC based on principles of governance. His exit was necessitated by his personal quest to implement his personal political ambition. And that is it. So the truth of the matter is that the fact that a few clique of elites, decided that, look, APC did not give them enough room to kind of implement their personal ambition, but the constitution gives them. Doesn't mean that we have been rejected by the people. We still have the people behind us. I'm happy with the template he used in a kind of assessing his principle. You see, I want to borrow his own metaphor to remain on that template of using Kano State as example. Whatever he told you, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso achieved in Kano State, my own principal, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, achieved ×5 of that in Lagos State. and it is quite evidential. Lagos is there, it's an entity. Kano too is there. But all I'm trying to say is that what we are doing is simply to sustain the people's confidence. We have the people behind us based on our performance, and we are already enlisting the people's understanding of the situation on ground. We have done quite a lot to show the people, even amid the COVID-19, the global inflation, and the Russia-Ukraine war that has so much negatively impacted on world economies. See what we have done in terms of infrastructure. That's why I said no economist in the world can bring an objective template to assess the performance of the government of APC in the last 2 years, because it is happening. Currently, the British economy is in recession. It's happening to Ghana, Egypt. It's happening everywhere. In fact, the United States is waiting for the end of this quarter to either escape or move into recession economically. So, Nigeria cannot be different, knowing fully well that we came in, as at the time we came in, Nigeria was the second largest importer of rice in the whole world behind China. And we did so much as far as rice is concerned. So the challenge before the opposition, NNPP inclusive, is to tell Nigerians what are they going to do differently. You see, the problem is we are telling Nigerians that they are failing, or rather, they are feigning ignorance of what we have achieved. What we are saying is that if you want to fight corruption, how do you intend to do it differently from the way we are doing it? If you want to kind of develop agriculture in Nigeria, how do you intend to do it differently from the way we are doing it? None of them is explaining this or providing answers to all this. And that was why the only document and mindset that accommodates, or rather appreciates the development on ground, is that of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He has said it repeatedly in different sectors that he will take off from where the current administration is going to live. So we are not afraid of going for elections. We have not lost the confidence of Nigerians.
Okay.
All we are doing is
let me let Dr. Agbo to respond to this while we wind down and conclude on the discussions. Perhaps you may want to react to that.
Well, I've tried as much as possible not to, just like my principal also does, we don't join issues with other political parties, of course, but in democracy, in electioneering, you cannot run away completely from talking about others. Yes, he just talked about rice. Is rice available to Nigerians? We had thought that the so-called rice revolution, we saw its pyramid, when it was done at the Eagle Square. So we're thinking that maybe we would find rice cheaper than it was during the PDP days. But here, you and I are, it takes you an average of about 40,000 to get a good bag of rice for your children now. So what has changed? Nothing has changed, you know. And then you also talk about infrastructure. I think, in a way, government is, every government has to be seen to be doing something. So the few roads that they have in place, we thank them for that. But I can tell you that Nigerians deserve far, far more than that. Today, you go to certain parts of this country, like in my state, Benue, you cannot find. I just came back yesterday after my younger brother's burial, and I can tell you that it was difficult, you know, coming into Abuja, you know, through any of the roads in Benue and all of that. So they have done the one that they are able to do, the one that the energy of their principal can sustain.
But he applied the express from Kefi to Makodi.
The one that the energy of their principal can sustain, that has been done. But I can tell you that Nigerians deserve far, far more than that. And so we cannot, personally, I cannot give them 30% for anything because I can't see anything that has been done. Even the ones that, the only thing they are doing is to throw banters, you know, go and arrest this, go and do this, go and do that. And I think that's not the mood of Nigerians. Now, the mood of Nigerians is they want to see you come, like His Excellency Rabi Musa Kwankwaso is doing now. Look at our strategy of campaigning, which they are all now struggling to pick. When we started, people were saying, where are your rallies? Where are your rallies? And I was always telling Nigerians on air, we don't need these rallies because these rallies haven't led us anywhere. What we want to do is to present this candidate who is always on the side of the ordinary people to them, from village to village. Today now, where he is the toast of every Nigerian, they keep saying that he could come to us, to our community, to come and feel our pains. That's the kind of person we're looking for. So those who are still flying into state capitals to gather people at the stadium, you know, they think it's still business as usual. But I can tell you that on the 25th of February, we will have a government that is popular, a government led by Rabi Musa Kwankwaso that is selected by the ordinary people. Because if you look at the distribution, you would see that the poor ones are more than the rich ones in this country. And the poor ones, for the first time, are determined to do what is right, which is to bring the man that bothers about their welfare.
Well, we would soon find out on February 25. It's just a few days from now. So thank you so much, Anjuma Mohammed, chieftain of the ruling All Progressives Congress, and also the publicity secretary, the national publicity secretary of the New Nigeria People's Party, Dr. Agbo Major. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
Thank you so much.
And giving us perspectives on these issues.